Alright guys, today we're going to be installing a fast diesel fuel systems titanium series fuel pump. It's on a 2012 Chevy Duramax 3500. I'll do a follow-up video after a week or so after it's installed to see if it resolved any of my issues. Higher RPMs, truck seems to fall flat in its face. So we're going to try to resolve that, and besides the obvious, saving injectors, more horsepower, fuel economy, everything that Fast claims their pumps are going to do. We're going to see how it works. Step 1 in the instruction manual says to hook up the electrical system. Comes with an add a fuse link. What you got to do is find a fuse in here that's hot when the ignition is on. I found one in the fuse box that says miscellaneous ignition. It's right here, I believe it's number 40. I use number 40, it's miscellaneous ignition. I'm assuming nothing else is connected to that. I watched another video, a guy used number 45, it would work, but your heating system's on there. I didn't want to overload the system. So basically you pull your fuse out, put this back in. That's the 10 amp fuse that I removed. That's the 3 amp fuse that came with the pump. Plug this back in. Make a crimp connection on your wiring harness. I fed that down through the frame, ran along the other wiring harnesses. This end we're going to connect to the battery. Ground and positive. See you in the next step. Next step, you want to insert this fitting in the end of your fuel line. It says to use a little bit of oil to help with the installation. Then you take this fitting and you put in the other end of your fuel line. Okay, here we have the fuel lines come from the tank. The big one here is the one you want to take apart first. It's the suction line. You just pop these clips off and it should come apart. Okay, when you pull the red tab off, there's a white tab on the inside there that has to be pushed up. This fuel line will disconnect. A little bit of fuel is going to come out of there. Got a rag underneath. I blew air through this so there's no objects, foreign objects, dirt or debris in there. This slides in here, it's going to clip. Put your white clip back down, reinstall the red clip. That's done. Take this end, slide it on top. You're going to hear it click. That's connected. Next step, we have to cut the filler tube where you put your diesel in the tank. This is a return manifold. You want to put it in like this, with this neck facing the outside of the truck. So we're going to mark this location. Okay, we have the pipe cut, filler neck cut. I have my hose clamps on with the heads facing so I can access them to tighten them. Slide this in here. What the heck?
It almost trailed me. Alright, so he's got the clamps tightened on the thing, as you can see.
Okay, the next step, I'm installing the flare fitting in the eport. There's this E stamped in right here. The 7/8 socket. This should be done in a vise, which I probably will do, but I'm just showing you. We're going to torque that to 40 pounds, 40 foot-pounds. Torque wrench set at 40 pounds. I didn't have to apply any thread sealant. It was already on the fittings from the factory. There it is, 40 foot-pounds. Now I can't put the torque wrench on here, so we're just going to tighten that in, roughly the same torque. Okay, so I assembled the pump. I put the bracket on here loosely for fitment. The directions say take the first bed bolt out. There isn't enough room to put this up there. This way you can flip it around, but the filler neck's in the way, so we're going back to the second bolt in the bed, and it should mount up in there real nice. So I have an 18mm socket. We're going to take this bolt out. Okay, the bed bolt is out. This is the mounting bracket. Make sure you put your rubber spacer in there. Got an aluminum spacer. Bolt's going to go like this. That goes right back into that where you remove that bed bolt. This is a 19mm head. Before I put it together, I'm going to put anti-seize on the threads. If I ever have to take it off, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, I got the pump assembled. I hooked up the electrical connection temporarily. I'm going to lubricate the pump according to the directions. You spray WD-40 lubricant or equivalent into the water separator nipple lubricator right in here. Well, it's not the lubricator, but alright, that'll do it. Turn it off. Alright, next step, mounting the pump. Okay, we have the system mounted. Don't have anything tight yet, and I don't have the filters on yet. I gotta put some oil on the gaskets before we put them on, but everything's mounted up, ready to go. Next step will be connect fuel lines, plug it in, prime it, and we should be good to go. Okay, we have our filter system mounted. We're going to connect the fuel lines. Right now we just have a closed loop. This fuel line is not cut, it's looped from the suction, which comes from the tank, to the factory feed line, which goes to the engine. So I took the fuel line back to my T-port, which is my 90-degree brass fitting on the filter. I'm going to cut that, attach that, and then I'm going to do the same thing with my feed line. That gets connected to the E-port on the fuel filter system. One other thing I wanted to show you here quick, this filter bracket has a lot of adjustment. It'll aid in replacing filters for it to slide down. So I'm going to cut the fuel line in its lowest position so we have enough to drop it down later to make changing the filters easier. Okay, I have this line connected. I'm doing the top one first so I can access it with my 7/8 wrench to tighten it. They're flare nuts, so they do not require Teflon tape. Once I have this one tight, I'm going to connect the return line here, put this one on, and we'll prime the system. Okay, we're getting ready to prime the system. I think one of my problems could be dirty injectors, so I'm going to add some seafoam to my filter before I put it on. I'm just going to put that right in the filter. You can't put too much of this in. They call for about an ounce per gallon if you put it in your tank as an additive. So I put about 6 ounces in there. A couple of videos on YouTube that show you how to clean your injectors using seafoam. Okay, we're getting ready to prime the system. I have an oil pan underneath in case any diesel fuel comes out of the filter. I just have it snug right now. We're going to turn the ignition key on. You're going to hear a difference in the sound of the pump. I'm going to try to tighten the filter before that fuel comes out, but basically we're just getting rid of the air in the system. Okay, fire it up. Okay, I didn't get any fuel coming out of the filter. I had it kind of tight. I heard a little bit of air come out of there. I could hear fuel returning to the tank. That's a sign of a properly primed system. Once the fuel's going back into the tank, everything else is good. There might be some small air pockets, but we might prime it one more time just to make sure. Okay, I primed the system. Before I start the truck, I'm going to go over everything, make sure I did everything right. I got a fuse link in here. We have our connections to the battery. There's 2 relays. I'm going to mount them to my fender and firewall. Here's one. Mount them vertical position in case any moisture comes down on that, it doesn't go in the plug. There's one back here. Gonna mount that to the firewall. Checked my fuel hose connections, no leak after priming it a second time. Once we know that the truck's running, then we can tighten all our brackets, fasten all our wiring, and secure all our fuel lines with zip ties provided. Okay, the truck started right away, no problem. Before I put the fast system on, I checked my RPM. On my H&S tuner, I was running about 640 RPMs at idle when the temperature was at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna see what it is, if it made a difference. Okay, so we have the fuel system installed. The truck runs great. It idles a little bit smoother. My RPM doesn't jump around as much as it used to with the factory system. So far, it seems to have better pickup and takeoff. I'll show you here in a second.